changing, and Matt Crouch, who has a very big mouth, even bigger than Rabbi Moshe, but Matt Crouch needs to chill out sometime, like Paul Crouch, his dad, and listen a little bit more than he talks. He likes to interrupt people, but nevertheless, last night, Matt Crouch was like silent. And these rabbis were teaching the pastors and teaching the audience and talking about the prophecies in Purim, how it relates to the Christians, how it relates to the church, how the church is part of the covenant people of Israel. It was two house, man. I mean, it was two house all over the place. I have copies. You give me $3, I'll make you a copy. Why will I charge you $3? Because I don't have a lot of time to sit and make copies, so you might as well just pay $3 and help everybody. All right? I could give it to you for free, but it takes time to make those things. Real time. Is that what they call it? Real time? As opposed to jail time. Real time. Where are we? So anyway, I turned to Rivka. I said, Rivka, please, honey. Because Rivka has a tendency to go to sleep like past 10:30. And so I said, quick, get out the knitting. Start crocheting, please. Do something. Just keep busy. Don't fall asleep on this. Keep busy, please. Just crochet, knit. Do something. So you don't fall asleep. And so she got out the grip. And we looked at each other and we said, this is amazing stuff. We've been watching TBN on and off for 20 years. We've never seen something like this. Two-house fellowship, not over oral tradition or Catholic catechism, but over the Word of Yahweh. It was an amazing thing. It was the two sticks analyzing the scriptures from different perspectives, and the Christians were shutting up, and the Orthodox rabbis, one from San Antonio, one from South Africa, Daniel Lapine, and Schoenberger, I forgot his friend of John Hagee's, were doing all the teaching. Things that I never heard. I've been studying the book of Esther for 20 years, almost 20 years, and I never heard these things. You've got to see that program. You absolutely must see that program. It was the two houses coming together in front of my eyes. All right, now here's some of the things we learned. Listen to this. Haman had 10 sons, as we're going to hear today when the Megillah is read, that were what? Hung on the gallows that were originally built for Mordechai. Haman said, build gallows for Mordechai, and hang Mordechai, and hang all the Yehudim on the gallows, right? Well, what happened? The king issued a decree. Esther went in, saved her people, stood up for her people. The decree was not reversed, but there was a second decree nullifying the first decree. And what happened? Haman and his 10 sons were hung on the very gallows that were built for what? For Mordechai and for the Yehudim. How many sons of Haman were hung? 10. 10. You sure? No. Yes, correct. 10. Now let me read this to you. Very good. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Stay still, boy. Amen. There we are. This thing is irritating. And you can't even blame Radio Shack, because usually I like to dump on Radio Shack. But this is not Radio Shack. Okay. In Esther chapter 9, without turning there, verses 7 and 9, there is an amazing set of things. And I'm going to do it to you this way. In the list of Haman's 10 sons are 3 letters, listen, that are smaller than the entire scroll. Can you picture this? Let's talk about modern technology, fonts on computers. How many know what a font is? So if you have an entire document in 10-point font, and then you have 3 letters in 6-point font, small font, what happens to those 3 letters? It's not in 10-point font, right? It sticks out, right? If you have a whole document in 10-point font, and you have 3 letters in 6-point font, it hits you. In the list of Haman's 10 sons, there are 3 letters that are tiny, about half the size, tiny, tiny, tiny letters of all the other letters in the book of the scroll in Megillat Esther. These letters are a Tav, a Shin, and a Zayin. Then there is one letter, a Vav, which is like a big Hey, okay? There's a Vav, And that is huge, like almost twice the size. If I held the book of Esther to you now, and you look through the entire Megillat Esther, you find these 4 letters, they'd stick out. 3 are tinier than all the other letters in the book of Esther. Are you with me? How many are we still with me? And 1 letter is so big, it's almost twice the size of all the other letters. Right? Cool? Watch this. Those 3 letters equal 707. The gematria. What is gematria? In Hebrew, listen, every letter has a numeric value. So if we take the numeric, what is Aleph? 1. What is Bet? 2. What is Gimel? 3. Gematria, every letter has a corresponding numeric value. Amen? If we take the gematria, remember that term, you'll hear it a lot in this congregation. If we take the gematria of Tav, Shin, Zion, those 3 what? Small, tiny letters, we come to 707. If we take that huge Vav that sticks out, what is Vav? Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, 6. So we have 6. Thus you have the Vav equals 6, or the 6th millennium, and the 707 equals the 707th year of the 6th millennium. The 6th millennium is the year what? 5,000. 707 of years into the 5th millennium is the year, the Jewish year of the Hebraic calendar, Beltrami, 5707. The year 5707 was 1946. What happened in 1946? No, that was 1948. I'll say that again. And I'll show you those 3 letters. I might take some looking for it, but I'll work with you, okay? But not tonight, please, because some of you had too much wine. You can't handle it. Take those 3 letters, which are 707, the gematria. Every letter has a corresponding numerical value. We take that big letter, the big signifying the millennium. There's 7 millennium of man, the 6th millennium for men. The 7th millennium is the Atid Lavo, or the Olam Haba, when Yeshua returns and rules for 1,000 years. Revelation 24 and 5. So that in the 707th year of the 6th millennium, or the Hebraic year 5707, which corresponds to 1946. Let's continue. In October of 1946, according to the Hebraic calendar, the Nuremberg Military Tribunal tried and convicted 10 Nazis, the authors of the final solution to the Jewish question. The 10 authors to the final solution to the 10 most wicked, despotic Nazis were sentenced to be hung for crimes of modern Hamanism against Jewish Israel. The 10 leading Nazis, Goebbels, Goering, Hess, all of the worst, most vicious, diabolical leaders of the final solution to the Jewish problem, so-called problem. Which to the world is a problem is Yahweh's covenant people. But to the Jewish question, there ain't no question, honey. Whoever touches you touches the apple of his eye. I will bless those who bless Israel, and I will curse those who curse Israel. It may be a question to you, but to Yahweh is not a question. It's a covenant-keeping bribe, his people. Listen, the chosen people. So these 10 Nazis were sentenced to death and hung for modern Hamanism. One of them, the notorious Julius Streicher, and we'll talk more about him in a few minutes, and we got to really move on here, cried as he was going to the gallows, Purim! 1946. Purim! This is a Nazi, a heathen, murderous, conniving swine. Not a human being. A murderer of innocent Jewish men, women, and children. 6 million. And the next time you listen to someone tell you that the Holocaust never happened, you're listening to the voice of Satan speaking to your heart, and you need to shut it off. The Holocaust was real. My grandparents were shot. I have no family left from my paternal side. Not one. 6 million were killed. Not 1 million, not 2 million, 6 million innocent men, women, and children. Let me read this to you and we'll wind down. On a beautiful, clear night in 1924 at Landsberg am Lech, where he was imprisoned by the Bavarian government, Adolf Hitler remarked to Rudolf Hess, "You know, it's really only the moon I hate. Not just the Jews, but the moon. For there's something dead, terrible, and inhuman. It's as if there still lives in the moon a part of the terror it once sent down to the earth. I hate it." Why did Adolf Hitler hate the moon? A chill accompanied my first encounter with that quote. Because the Jewish religious tradition of the Torah, which is true, sees the ever-rejuvenating, shining disk of the moon, the what? The Rosh Chodesh. This is why it's important for you to be here every Rosh Chodesh, because Hitler hated the moon and didn't want the moon to shine to announce the renewal of the month for the Jewish people and for the people of Israel. So every time you show up on Rosh Chodesh, it's like you're stepping on the grave and the memory of Hitler, that Yahweh's truth defeated Adolf Hitler. You following me? That's why you should be here for Rosh Chodesh, every Rosh Chodesh. Okay. Listen. Indeed, the very first commandment the people of Israel were given while still awaiting the Exodus in Egypt was to identify through the calendar with the moon. It was the moon that Hitler feared, because it signaled to the Jews the times and the seasons, and it would ultimately signal his death and his impending judgment. Watch this. There is much oddness about Hitler with connections to ancient Jewish tradition, like his fondness for ravens and Jewish lore associated with cruelty. He went so far as to issue special orders protecting ravens. And like his fascination with the art of Franz von Stuck, whose major themes are snakes and sinister, lustful women, in Jewish mystical tradition, snakes evoke evil, and its embodiment, Amalek. There are hints of an antithetical relationship between the irredeemable wickedness of Amalek and women, evil women. And then there is the matter of the most loathsome of Hitler's henchmen, Julius Streicher, the editor of the Der Stürmer, the premier journal of Jew hatred and baiting. Der Stürmer was the name of Streicher's publication. Listen, don't lose me here. How many are still with me? JP, are you with me? So, at its peak in 1938, printed runs of Streicher's vile tabloid ran as high as 2 million copies. A typical offering included a close-up of the face of a deformed Jew above the legend, "Scum of Humanity." This Jew says that he is a member of God's chosen people. Another displayed a cartoon of a vampire bat with a grotesquely exaggerated nose and a Jewish star on its chest. And yet another Jewish butcher was depicted snidely dropping a rat into his meat grinder. And elsewhere in the issue, the punctured necks of handsome German youths were shown bleeding into a bowl, head by a Jew looking like a gargoyle more than he was human. In 1935, speaking to a closed meeting of a Nazi student organization, Streicher displayed an arguably Amalekite approach and declared, "All our struggles are in vain if the battle against the Jews is not fought to the finish. It is not enough to get the Jews out of Germany. No, they must be destroyed throughout the entire world so that humanity will be free of them." The suspicion that in Streicher's blindness, baseness, and absolute hatred of the Jews lay the legacy of Amalek, making the story of Amalek's capture and death nothing short of chilling. Okay, now here's the meat of the context. You with me?
Oh, yes.
You with me?
Oh, yes.
Purim is the only Jewish holiday that celebrates the defeat of an Amalekite Haman. Even a passing familiarity with the Purim story is sufficient to know that the downfall of its villain is saturated with what seems to be chanceless ironies. He turns up at the wrong place at the wrong time, and all that he so carefully plans eventually comes to backfire on him in an almost comical way. A theme of the book of Esther characterizes the words v'nafchuhu, and it was turned upside down. Such chance happenings are the hallmark of Amalek's defeat. A fact reflected in the casting of lots, from which Purim takes its name. By chance, Esther teaches us is an illusion that Yahweh is in charge. Amalek may fight with iron, but he is defeated with irony. Did you get that? Yeah. Amalek fights against Israel and Jewish Israel in every generation with iron, but is defeated with irony. It's almost like a comical thing where Yahweh is like the puppet master behind the scenes. Eshtar panai, I will Esther my face, and let's see what Amalek is going to do in this generation before I destroy Amalek. Not only destroy them, but erase their name and their memory out from under the heavens. You with me? So Stryker was who? The publisher of the Nazi propaganda that spoke hatred and vile